From ally to enemy, the transformation of Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden was a complex figure. Born into a wealthy Saudi family, he was known for his piety and intelligence. In the 1980s, he joined the fight against Soviet forces in Afghanistan. He used his wealth to support the Mujahideen. The US also supported the Mujahideen during the Cold War, but relations soured in the early 1990s. Due to the US military presence in Saudi Arabia during the Gulf War, bin Laden was deeply offended by foreign troops near Islam's holiest sites. He began to publicly criticize American foreign policy, calling for the expulsion of American troops from Muslim countries. In 1996, Sudan expelled bin Laden. He found refuge in Afghanistan, allying with the Taliban. The Taliban provided a safe haven for Al-Qaeda. The stationing of US troops in Saudi Arabia was a pivotal moment for bin Laden. It solidified his belief that the US was an enemy of Islam, bent on controlling the Middle East and its resources. This belief, fueled by his interpretation of Islamic scriptures, became the cornerstone of his ideology. Bin Laden saw the US as a hypocritical power, promoting democracy and freedom while supporting oppressive regimes in the Middle East. He pointed to US support for Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories and its sanctions against Iraq as evidence of American double standards. He called for a global jihad, a holy war, against the US and its allies. He urged Muslims worldwide to rise up against what he perceived as Western aggression and oppression. Bin Laden's message, spread through propaganda videos and online forums, found a receptive audience among a small but determined group of extremists. Bin Laden's path to 9/11 was marked by a series of increasingly audacious attacks against US targets. These attacks were not isolated incidents, but rather calculated steps in his plan to strike at the heart of America. In 1993, a truck bomb exploded in the parking garage of the World Trade Center in New York City, killing 6 people and injuring over 1,000. While bin Laden was not directly linked to this attack, it demonstrated the vulnerability of American targets and served as a precursor to future attacks. In 1998, Al-Qaeda carried out near-simultaneous bombings of US embassies in Nairobi, Kenya, and Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. These attacks, which killed 224 people, including 12 Americans, marked a significant escalation in bin Laden's campaign of terror. On the morning of September 11, 2001, the world watched in horror as terrorists hijacked 4 commercial airplanes and carried out coordinated attacks on US soil. The attacks, planned and executed by Al-Qaeda, would forever change the course of history. At 8:46 a.m. Eastern Time, American Airlines Flight 11 crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. The impact, which occurred between the 93rd and 99th floors, sent shockwaves through the city and beyond. Minutes later, at 9:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175 struck the South Tower of the World Trade Center. This time, the impact occurred between the 77th and 85th floors, causing even greater devastation. Section 5, The Aftermath, a world reeling in shock and grief. The immediate aftermath of the 9/11 attacks was a blur of confusion, fear, and grief. The world watched in disbelief as the Twin Towers collapsed, transforming the New York City skyline forever. The attacks claimed the lives of 2,977 people from over 90 countries, making it the deadliest terrorist attack in history. Among the victims were firefighters, police officers, and paramedics who rushed to the scene to help. The collapse of the Twin Towers sent a massive cloud of dust and debris billowing through lower Manhattan, blanketing the area in a thick layer of ash. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and jet fuel, a grim reminder of the devastation that had unfolded. Section 6, Retaliation and Response. The US declares war on terror. In the wake of the September 11th attacks, the United States, under the leadership of President George W. Bush, launched a global war on terror. The Bush administration vowed to hunt down those responsible for the attacks and to prevent future acts of terrorism. The US military response began on October 7, 2001, with airstrikes against Al-Qaeda and Taliban targets in Afghanistan. The Taliban, who had provided safe haven to bin Laden and his followers, were quickly ousted from power. The war in Afghanistan dragged on for 2 decades, becoming the longest war in US history. While the US and its allies succeeded in degrading al-Qaeda's capabilities in Afghanistan, the war came at a heavy cost in terms of both human life and financial resources. Section 7, the long hunt tracking down Osama bin Laden. The hunt for Osama bin Laden became a top priority for US intelligence agencies. The CIA and other agencies worked tirelessly to track down the al-Qaeda leader, who had evaded capture for nearly a decade. The search for bin Laden spanned several continents and involved a combination of traditional intelligence gathering techniques, such as human intelligence and signal intercepts, along with cutting-edge technology, including drone surveillance and satellite imagery analysis. Despite the immense resources dedicated to the search, bin Laden proved to be an elusive target. He used a network of safe houses, couriers, and disguises to stay one step ahead of his pursuers. Section 8, Justice Served. The raid on Abbottabad. On May 2, 2011, a team of US Navy SEALs conducted a daring raid on a compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, where Osama bin Laden was believed to be hiding. The raid, which was authorized by President Barack Obama, marked the culmination of years of intelligence gathering and planning. The SEAL team infiltrated the compound under the cover of darkness, engaging in a firefight with bin Laden's guards before ultimately finding and killing the al-Qaeda leader. The raid, which lasted approximately 40 minutes, was a resounding success, bringing to an end the decade-long manhunt for the mastermind behind the September 11th attacks. News of bin Laden's death was met with jubilation and relief across the United States. Crowds gathered outside the White House and at Ground Zero in New York City, chanting "USA, USA" and waving American flags. The successful raid provided a sense of closure for many Americans who had lost loved ones in the September 11th attacks and served as a powerful symbol of American resolve. Section 9, the legacy of 9/11, a world forever changed. The legacy of September 11th continues to shape the world today, influencing everything from foreign policy and national security to travel and everyday life. The attacks exposed the vulnerabilities of even the most powerful nations to terrorism, leading to a fundamental shift in how governments approach security threats. The global war on terror, launched in the aftermath of September 11th, has had far-reaching consequences, leading to prolonged military interventions in Afghanistan and Iraq, as well as increased drone strikes and counter-terrorism operations in various parts of the world. The rise of new terrorist groups, such as ISIS, has further complicated the fight against terrorism, highlighting the evolving nature of the threat. The September 11th attacks also had a profound impact on American society, leading to increased security measures at airports and other public places, as well as heightened surveillance and data collection by government agencies. The attacks sparked a national conversation about the balance between security and civil liberties, a debate that continues to this day.